Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. So, first, I must say that it has been a few days since our last piece of content was produced. Unfortunately and regrettably, I'm back on the East Coast, dealing with some family challenges. Unfortunately, had a family member pass away recently, and again, just back on the coast, East Coast, dealing with that. But circling back to what's happening right now in the Middle East, this war that is taking place between Iran and Israel. Now, what's interesting as we watch what is happening, and what is happening is incredibly significant for a number of different reasons. So, first, what is happening is a clear indication, is a clear summary of what happens if and when a far superior military power engages a lesser military power. And you're watching that right now. You're watching a far superior military force engaging a far lesser military capability. And that is the military alliance of the United States and the state of Israel that are now attacking the nation state of Iran. Iran has capability. They have capabilities to attack Israel, and they have attacked Israel in response to the Israeli attack upon Iran. Now, what's interesting is the messaging that is coming out of the United States. When the operation first started, it was being made very clear by elements within the United States political leadership that the United States was not participating in any way in this operation. Now, let's be reasonable. This operation has been prepared for, in all probability, the last year, if not more. Meaning the preparations for an operation were being put in place over the last year. That includes both Israel and the United States. And obviously Israel, you're probably looking at an operation in terms of targeting assessments and what have you. That has been going on for years. Years. If you look at some of the operations that took place in Lebanon and Syria that decapitated Hamas and Hezbollah and the elements of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard both in Syria and Lebanon, those operations were in the preparatory stages quite literally for years. Now, this operation we're now seeing against Iran is far, far much larger in scope, in scale. Now, again, when the political apparatus in Washington, D.C. says the United States is not involved in this, that is very misleading. Very misleading. There are massive amounts of U.S. assets involved in this operation. Intelligence assets, more importantly, the ability of airborne refueling operations, those are ongoing. Obviously, there are permissions being given from other nation states in the region that are assisting the Israelis in this operation, right? Who could that be? Well, there are a number of nation states that are allied with Israel in this military operation, meaning they're giving the Israelis permission to overfly certain airspaces and quite possibly, in cases, take off from certain nation states such as Azerbaijan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. Again, none of this is really being talked about. But to think that the Israelis are launching some of these operations in Israel and then flying all the way over 1,500 kilometers to Iran to launch these attacks, that could be misleading. that is happening. The Israelis are launching attacks from the State of Israel against targets in Iran. But I'm also saying it's highly probable and highly likely that other nation states in the region are being used as a jumping off point for both U.S. Airborne refueling aircraft, intelligence missions, and what have you, to support this, let's just call it what it is, a co-Israeli, co-United States operation to degrade Iran's nuclear capability. Now, this mission, this operation that is ongoing, appears to be much larger than just actually degrading Iranian nuclear capability. That seems to be a primary part of the mission, but there also appears to be a secondary mission that is very large and is included in the overall mission as well, and that appears to be the possibility of regime change in Iran and or destroying the Iranian capacity in terms of its command and control. Now, what's interesting is if you look at what is being targeted by the quote-unquote this joint Israeli-United States operation, it's mainly Revolutionary Guard high command elements. We're seeing a lot of the targeting of these command nodes within the Revolutionary Guard. What's interesting is there may be a possibility that this joint operation is not targeting other areas of the Iranian military. So if you look at the Iranian armed forces, you have the Iranian army, the Iranian Air Force, the Iranian Navy. And then you have the Revolutionary Guard, which controls an element of ground forces. It controls essentially strategic rocket forces and missile forces. It has its own air force or air capability, and it has its own naval assets as well. That is separate. It acts as a counterbalance to the rest of the Iranian military apparatus. What's interesting is that is the apparatus that the Israelis and the United States appear to be targeting right now. The Revolutionary Guard, the key leadership elements that keeps the current regime in power. So the question is right now, what's next? There does appear to be a concerted effort to go beyond targeting Iran's nuclear capability. There also appears to be a mission to take out again the Revolutionary Guard elements that keep the current regime in power. There also appears to be a targeted effort against Iran's ballistic missile capability, which is offering a robust counterstrike to the Israeli offensive operation. Now, just how much of that has been actually damaged? Is there a capability within Iran to provide more larger and enhanced strikes against the Israelis? Could we eventually see the Iranians attack U.S. military bases in the region? Possibly. I think right now the key of what is being looked at very closely is the Strait of Hormuz, the Persian Gulf. Iran has not, as of yet, started to target shipping. And what I mean by that is the oil shipping that is going through the Persian Gulf, that is transiting the Persian Gulf from ports in Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, around the Strait of Hormuz and out of the Gulf of Oman into the open sea lanes. We have not yet seen the Iranians start to target those shipping lanes. That is a capability that right now Iran may be asking itself, well, should we go ahead and start targeting these ships? And the answer to that is right now, it's a very good possibility the Iranians may start to do that with cruise missiles and other systems that they have operating near areas such as Bandar Abbas and these islands in the Persian Gulf and Strait of Hormuz. And obviously that is going to lead to an open expansion of the conflict. In all likelihood, at that point, and we may even see the United States openly start to support the Israelis with B-2 and B-52 bombers. I think right now, the United States is looking at what's happening, and they're asking itself, well, what capabilities do the Iranians have left? Can we reasonably expect a very aggressive and robust strike from Iran against U.S. bases in Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar? And the answer to that right now, in terms of the U.S. assessment, is that it is very likely that the Iranian missile capability to strike at those bases is being and has been significantly degraded. And that's why you're seeing this narrative start to take shape and turn, going from originally the United States was not a participant in this conflict to now, if you listen to the verbiage coming out of the Trump administration, especially Donald Trump, President Trump, if you listen to Donald Trump, he's now talking about in the plural, we as meaning the United States and Israel are conducting this operation, whereas before, just a few days ago, it was mainly focused on this is an Israeli operation in total. We're now starting to get the feeling now that obviously that's not the case. This was a joint operation. This was a joint operation, as I've said before, that preparation had been going for some time. It appears that the early successes of this operation in the degrading fear of a large Iranian counter-response to targeting U.S. bases in the region is also starting to degrade, which is making the United States bolder in terms of what it may or may not do. Now, we could see an Iranian response in regards to the Persian Gulf and trying to shut down that shipping lane. And the question is what is that U.S. assessment? Does the U.S. believe that the Iranians have that capability, and then what would that do to the oil markets, the price of fuel, which obviously impacts economies all over the earth? So we're still in this phase right now, and it looks like the United States is assessing the situation and may right now be leaning towards getting into this conflict openly with supporting the Israelis, both not just with intelligence and in-flight refueling, but actual kinetic assistance, which may actually be going on. It's just not being announced. It may very well be a case that the United States is participating in a kinetic manner, meaning that B-2 bombers may have flown over Iran and have targeted areas inside of Iran, but obviously that is not being acknowledged. It may be happening. It may not be happening. But needless to say, this is an incredibly large operation that right now has all the hallmarks of a high degree of success based on the size and technology that the United States and the Israelis have over Iran. And it goes deeper than that. It goes into the military training, the military infrastructure, and again, the technology. But again, the Iranians still have a capability to respond. The Iranians, in all probability, have not yet shown all their cards. And that's very important to understand. The Iranians are not a stupid race of people. The Persians are not a stupid race of people. These are very intelligent people that they themselves have prepared for such an operation as well in terms of what their response was going to be. Now, again, they are facing a foe that is very much larger and more capable than they are. And right now, we're just waiting to see if they decide to try and shut down the Strait of Hormuz in the shipping. That is their card that they could play, that they have not yet played yet. And then we've heard reports of a possible launch of a dirty bomb by the Iranians towards Israel. I think that would be essentially suicide for the Iranians to do that, and would give the United States essentially open permission to unleash shock and awe and total hell upon Iranian cities, which in all probability would happen if the Iranians launched a dirty bomb. But that's where we're at right now, and we will continue to monitor, we will continue to report, and again, I apologize for not producing said content earlier. It's just been a difficult situation here where I am at because of what's happened with my family. So more to come later. As always, thank you for joining us. Have a good day.